Core.
You are listening to Core, a show on Code Zero Radio that plays bands located in the Fox Cities. A show to find and discover new music. Hosted by Andy McNamara.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fox Cities Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. I'm your host, Andy McNamara. If this is your first time tuning in, Fox Cities Core is a live streaming internet show. We also broadcast to WCZR Code Zero Radio. If you do have a question during the show, you can give us a call at 920-358-0795. My next guests formed a band over a decade ago in Perkiomenville. I probably butchered that. We'll talk about that later.
That's pretty close.
Pennsylvania. Their latest album, titled The Album, was released last year. I'd like to welcome Dee and James from Chestnut Grove to Fox Cities Core. How are you guys doing today?
Great. Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, we're doing awesome.
I know you've had a lot going on while you're in town. You did a show at McFleshman's on Thursday, and that was kind of a unique show, wasn't it? You did songs from like Led Zeppelin and the White Stripes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was actually our first time getting to play cover songs in Appleton, because we're usually here for Mile of Music, so that's strictly originals.
Which is also ironic that we were even excited about it, because normally it's like, oh God, we got to do cover shows. Because we do cover shows back at home. We've been a band for over a decade now, like you said. So we've been doing cover shows at home for years. So we don't overbill as Chestnut Grove. We'll kind of pick up bar shows and stuff like that and do like a Zeppelin tribute or a Bowie tribute or something. And we were struggling we played in Grand Rapids on our way here on Wednesday, but we were struggling to fill out our Thursday and Friday around our Saturday Appleton Beer Factory show. So I hit up Jess from McFleshman's and had asked her if we could do some sort of tribute show, kind of pop-up show, like last minute, kind of tagged along with our thing since we're in town and we don't have much else going on. And she loved the idea, so we ended up making it work out. But it pretty much came from the fact that we were just starving for another show, and we didn't want to double bill us as Chestnut Grove in town. So it's just a good way to kind of trick everybody into it.
How was the reception to doing covers when you're used to playing, the originals in front of people? Were they pretty receptive to it?
I think they were.
Nobody left.
Shout out to the Chestnut Grove fans in Appleton for showing out and showing up. I mean, it was a rainy Thursday, and there was a lot of people there, so we were really happy to just have people back out at our shows again after a rough 2 years.
Is it hard to explain to people back home like what the vibe is like in Appleton? And is it to you, is it a lot different than some of the other places you've played?
It's definitely a lot different than everywhere we've played. It's weird because I feel like every time I describe it to people, I'm like, I feel like Appleton is just so homey and everybody's inviting and really nice and receptive here, and they're actually interested in what's going on. So you guys are very involved in your music community.
The first time that you were in Appleton, was it Mile Music?
Yeah. The shout out to Wild Adriatic for hooking all that up for us and making us good friends with Ian and Jess. Made it easy for us to create a following here and create a community for Chestnut Grove in Appleton. And this is our first time actually in town, not for a Mile event. Yeah. So it's very different. Back to what you had asked originally. First off, it's hard to explain Appleton because your vibe is a little different. And then second off, it's just impossible to explain Mile of Music. Like, you just have to go. As a fan, if you're just a fan coming to watch music, it's probably one of the best festivals in the country to go to. For bands, it's undeniably the best fest in the country to go to. Just the hospitality to start is perfect. The fact that you can come here for your first time like we did in, 2018? Mm-hmm. And immediately by your third show of the weekend, like Thursday, no one's at your set. Friday, a bunch of people are for some reason at your set. And then by Saturday, you're like, what's going on here? This is amazing. I feel like a rock star in Appleton.
I think one of the cool parts about it, you tell me if I'm wrong as well, is that you're not playing one place, traveling hours, and then playing again and traveling again. You're kind of in one spot playing different venues and getting kind of a chance to explore and experience different venues as an artist and without all the traveling. And Mile really does make it easy for the artists.
It's the greatest mini tour of all time.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Do you normally sell a lot of merch at Mile of Music every year?
It's our biggest.
The most.
Yeah,
I'll
it's our
speak-
biggest sale.
I'll speak for Dee. She said we have to have merch before we go to Appleton. We'll sell it all. I'll be able to buy our new EPs. So,
And we're going to get into the latest album, the album. But if I could have you walk me through your first memories of arriving in Appleton, like what places did you go to? I mean, you must have heard about it.
It was super
already
duper, super duper late.
it was really late, and honestly, we immediately got the Appleton. What's the right word? I guess the Appleton arrival. I don't know. Immediately, we showed up at the hotel. We checked in. It was about 11:30 at night. I kind of recall, and I do not remember the two bartenders' names. I've only ever seen them at Mile one other time, but I specifically recall they asked if we were in one of the bands. We said yes. They were like, "Oh, are you excited for it?" And we're like, "This is our first time. We don't know what to expect." They're like, "It's going to be amazing." And then they proceeded to give us a free meal and a bunch of free drinks and kind of hooked us up right away. So immediately we got the Appleton hospitality. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
That you guys are so well known for. And we hadn't even played a note of music here. We didn't convince these people we were any good. We could have been totally lying.
Yeah, 100%. But
And immediately we were just, humbled right off the bat. And that's kind of continually been the experience. Even though we've grown a nice fan base here, the whole experience is just extremely humbling.
But I think it's awesome because Mile brings in artists that are really good. Everyone on the billing is really good.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if you like any kind of music, you're gonna find somebody that you're gonna just fall in love with.
Oh, yeah. The first year was also just intimidating. We were like, we got to go home and practice.
Yeah, 100%.
So did being in Appleton when you got home, was there any thoughts like, hey, maybe we should just move there?
We joke about it enough.
Yeah, for sure. It is a second home. It does
For me,
feel that way.
traveling is kind of our home. So I don't really think about where we end up fully located. We do have a lot of bases at home. I just bought a house back where we live in Pennsylvania, and there's just it's hard to move as much as we'd want to. I think if we ever moved to, we would unfortunately probably move further south just because we already come from a place where it's also cold.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to move somewhere else where it's that cold half the year.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about how Chestnut Grove got started. You guys met in high school, right?
Yeah, a decade
Even
ago.
earlier, all of us actually, we've talked about this. We went to the same school together since 7th grade. John and I have actually played in a band together since 7th grade. So I was 13 when I started this crazy musical journey that I still find myself on. And then by senior year of high school, Dee was in a band with John and I. And to make it not the longest story in the world, because I don't think we have 4.5 hours for me to tell the whole Chestnut Grove story today. But it's been a wild ride. It's been quite an experience being, literally growing up together. We are closer to being siblings than we are band members.
Yeah,
So,
that's for sure.
Have you had any kind of personnel change since the band really?
very early on,
Yeah.
we had a member for 2 weeks who tragically passed away in a car accident named Matt Barber. When we were very young, we weren't even called Chestnut Grove yet. The name is actually from a bass player who left the band also right after senior year of high school. Sean Murray, he named the band after the road that Matt had passed away on. And everybody kind of in our high school gravitated around this for a couple years. And then as time went on, we had the 2 personnel changes. We added Gary to the band, and then Zach became our bass player by 2012. So it was right after high school. It all happened fast. And I asked Sean Murray personally, in about 2013, should we keep the name or change the name? He said he's going to ask Matt's mom, and Matt said she loves the fact that there's a tribute to her son still traveling around and doing
cool.
this thing. So, R.I.P. to Matt and everything. It's been a long time. I never forget that that's where it comes from, though, and so that's kind of the story about the name and the origins. And it wasn't really a member personnel change as much as it was just a bunch of young kids discovering themselves playing music together. And we had a few exchanges of friends that joined the band and stuff like that, but out of pure necessity.
Were you playing when you got together? I'm guessing you were playing cover songs, or were you writing right off the bat?
We were pretty much writing.
I always was writing.
away.
I actually, my dad and I have talked about this my whole life, and he's always said to his friends, they're like, well, do they play covers? And he goes, no, they want to make their own music right away. I didn't even know how to play other people's songs, so I just made my own thing up. That was the first step into doing that. But I feel at this point in my life like I don't know if it was natural or like kind of like I put it into existence because I thought it just made more sense. But I feel like I wanted to play music just because I wanted to write songs. I didn't really want to learn other people's songs at first. I was more just like gravitated towards the idea of like writing something for ourselves.
Do you have any music you still play that are songs that you wrote right at the beginning?
Neighbors for Now, I was writing the guitar part, and it was the only thing I could do when I picked up a guitar.
Yeah.
For such a long time, I would just play this little lick that I had that did turn into Neighbors for Now. Like, it probably not as close to the same thing as I actually think it was, but I do remember playing that little lick for all of that time. And there's a lot of things. Like, there's the chorus in Don't Mind a Thing off of the album, our last record. So that's like the most recent recordings we've done, and I do know the chorus was something I wrote in
used to be in another song.
It was literally just something that we used to goof around with in like ninth grade.
Yeah.
I think I've had that chorus floating around since ninth grade and ended up working with other things. So not full songs. I don't think there's anything we're like really doing from the early days that we like. We still do a couple songs from Perkiomenville. That's about it.
I would
like,
totally revisit a couple songs just out of sheer curiosity to know what they would sound like.
Yeah, no one
now
knows
that we're
these songs.
older.
Like I Feel Your Pain, Man.
Or Old Hidden Road.
Yeah,
That would be
yeah.
a good one.
Well, you brought up your the first LP, Perkiomenville. I know
Perkiomenville, which you're saying it so well.
Yeah.
Our friends.
where you were from, right? Is that the name
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
city?
yeah. It's not a city. It's a small farm town about an hour west of Philadelphia. We all went to Boyertown Senior High School, so that's the closest town or city.
I guess if you want to call it that.
Yeah, but no, it's just a little town about an hour west of Philadelphia. So we lie and say we're from Philly because it's just a lot easier to explain.
Because nobody's going to know where Perkiomenville is.
Outside of Perkiomenville.
Yeah.
That's just for me really hard to say.
That's fine. You say it really well.
Yeah, no, that's the best.
The
I've
best
heard,
we ever heard was the drummer from the Outside Voices said, "Where are you guys from? Pokemonville?"
Well, that LP, you guys recorded it yourselves? Or there
Yes.
was some kind of self-recording going on there?
We had our friend Owen McGrean from Viking Sound Production. He kind of came
Moved
in.
into my parents'
Yeah,
house
he kind
for
of
an
came in
entire
and
summer.
moved in.
Oh.
Yeah, I just had started like, living with my girlfriend at the time, and my room was open, so I had just met Owen at a music festival that we were playing at, and I asked my parents if this complete stranger that I just have only known for about 2 weeks. It all worked out well. We're still really good friends now. He was a fantastic house guest. Everything went really well. But yeah, we spent 2 straight months in still our practice space, which is my parents' barn.
Yeah, he had a portable
July
recording system.
through September. We pretty much lived together and recorded nonstop, and that was the first time we ever really even learned what we were really doing. Because the first time you get into a studio, you're like, wow, we really stink at this.
I mean, you definitely hear it in a different way than you've ever heard it because it's all directly what you're doing. And you're like, is that what I'm doing? God, that sounds like trash.
But no, it ended up working out well. Owen really pulled the best out of us and taught us all kind of how to interact and act as a band, and we've continued to grow since then.
Yeah, we also recorded that during the Philadelphia Folk Fest was going on, and so we were like hopping back and forth between being at a festival and like recording guitar parts and vocal tracks.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It was like a chaotic time, but I don't know.
Oh, I lost my job during that time.
Yeah.
One of the many I've lost because of this band. It's not, I've lost a lot of jobs because of this band.
It's the sacrifice it requires.
So around that time, were you doing any touring or were you just playing around
Just
your home
local.
A
area?
lot of bars.
Just local,
yeah.
a lot of bars, really building a thing up, playing a lot of covers mixed in with our originals just to keep people interested.
Yeah, learning how to play live, pretty much.
Yeah, so we started writing right away, like we said, in high school, but it took us, we had a couple EPs in between that too. There's an Old Tin Road EP that we came out with. There's a Outside the Show EP, and none of them are really online anymore. A lot of those songs got recycled and put on Perkiomenville, so we just scrapped it all and kind of stuck with that record.
So the non-recyclables are the ones that are still there, like Let It Down and Black Champagne?
Yeah. We decided, well, they were post Perkiomenville. So Perkiomenville was 2015, and then I'm pretty sure Let It Down was 2017, and then Black Champagne was our 2018. That was the
You're
first
correct.
thing that came out when we came to Mile. But we still were playing mostly like Let It Down EP. Like we played a lot of Black Champagne, but I think people were more interested in the stuff. Off
Our
of Let It
biggest song is off of Let It Down.
Down. Still.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so
It's been a good time.
So your latest album is called The Album, and you went into a studio to record that one, which
yeah, and we've done studio stuff before. Like the Let It Down EP and the Black Champagne EP were both like studio done records. But this the album was the first time we actually like used the click track for the whole record and really cut our teeth as like studio musicians. Before we were just like a live rowdy show.
Yeah, and we had a producer able to like take us aside and like listen to it from an outside perspective and give his input and like kind of pushed us in a direction that we wanted to go but didn't really know how to get there.
And he was the first person I feel like we all worked with where we were going into it knowing that Derek Chafin is his name, and we just knew that like there was this confidence that we had in him from right off the bat. Like after the first 2 meetings Dee and I had with him, there was just a connection that we had, and we just trusted him right off the bat. And he did push us to do things that were like sometimes uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we
though.
were like, oh, we got to change this song that we've had for 6 years that people love. Why would we change it? And he, you know, you learn that that's like that is the right way to do things, and it is the right way to grow your music in a really good direction, to be pushed and challenged by a great producer.
as a collective band, do you get along pretty good as far as
No, we hate each other.
Yeah. So sick of this dude.
as far as like making changes to a song? Like James, if you wrote a song and Dee had some changes, are you receptive to the criticism, or do you kind of stick to what you originally?
I'll answer immediately. I think we full blown encourage each other to push the song in a different direction.
If you have an idea, spit it out.
On the newest thing we were making, Zach and I wrote a lot of the new EP right off the bat. But Dee and John and Gary have elevated what we had from the beginning to the point where all my vocal parts have become the secondary vocal parts. And she has all these hooks that she wrote on top of it. And instead of being like, well, these were kind of my songs, I was like, these are killer now. Like, so
You're like, wow, this is something I never knew would happen.
That's all we're always looking for. Yeah. We have a good camaraderie as a group. We trust each other more than we even trust ourselves, honestly. Like if we do something, I'm like, and Dee's like, I'm back at the drums and we're working a riff out. I'm like, does that all sound? Is my arrangement making any sense to a listener?
Yeah. You're like, is that actually what should be happening? Or no, we're like really good at this point. We're really good at communicating with each other.
Yeah, we weren't always the best at it. No. I used to yell too much. I still do, but
it's a lot better now.
Do you guys like writing lyrics?
Yeah. Love writing lyrics. I think lyrics have they've always been the driving force to what we're making musically. Which is why a lot of our music is like a little bit eclectic. Sometimes it can be heavy and riffy. Sometimes it can be more Americana and rootsy. And nowadays, the newer stuff that we don't have out yet, but it's pushing more of like a dance kind of element of things. And it almost always comes from the fact that we're like thinking about like the lyrical direction that we're going in and like what kind of genre we want to tackle this time. And I think it's just always important to make sure like the vocals and your lyrics, I mean, not all the time. There's a lot of different kinds of music to be made, but we're trying our best to be like an alternative, relevant pop, rock and roll band or whatever that is nowadays. But
I think the cool thing about our lyrics is that a lot of them start out as like a personal thing, but they're relevant to a lot of other situations. Like somebody could listen to it and think of something different, but like it happened to you specifically. And like, I don't know, sometimes when you write lyrics, it just ends up almost being like futuristic and storytelling in a way that you didn't realize until you were able to look back at the situation and be like, oh, actually, that was what was happening at the time. And like, this is now where we are. And a lot of people can relate to a lot of different things.
Yeah. And to add to that, earlier on, I just wrote songs and never really thought about it. But now I do write a lot of like folk songs, like with like more storyboards, and they're more straight to the point. And I've kind of removed that from like the Chestnut Grove land of writing, because I like to be, I know what my songs are about. I know what they mean to me and the lyrics personally mean, but I try my best to be like vague and universal in a sense. So that way the lyrics become something everybody can grab onto. And then that way it is easy for like us to collaborate on putting lyrics together. Like, it's like, okay, you may have not been saying the exact same thing as I am, but what the lyrics meant at the end of the day, she's still understanding.
Yeah.
And we're able to collaborate very well on that. And we're not the only ones that even write it. John wrote I Know Somebody on the last album. Gary is always influential to everything. And Zach on this newest thing that we're going to release that we'll have out by Mile, it's very bass driven, so it's not even a lyrical sense, but even his bass parts are lyrical in a sense.
They're very melodic, and like they become a lot of the melody that the lyrics are driving behind. So it's just like it's gonna be. I can't wait. It's gonna be like a whole new.
We're
animal.
super excited for our new material to come out. We've loved everything that we've made previously, but I always feel like we were tapping into bands we liked and sounding like bands we liked. And this time I feel like we're kind of pushing into our own sound and kind of finding our own thing. Hopefully I'm not wrong.
I mean, there's definitely things that I know are heavily influential in the sounds that are going to be coming out, but I don't know. It's just like there's a vibe behind it that we haven't put out.
We're excited.
Before.
Can't wait to come back for Mile and do all of it.
Who are some of the bands that influenced you early on, and have those influences changed over time, or?
No, we played the White Stripes and Zeppelin on Thursday.
Yeah, still kicking it. It's like always changing.
They've changed.
Yeah.
This newest album, even though I just said it sounds more like us and is original, I never was that into like the Talking Heads or like the Pretenders or the Clash. Like that was not my style. I wasn't like an 80s, late 70s, like new wave kind of person. And somehow over the pandemic that became like my favorite style of music. I don't know what happened, but
I think you just needed like a guiding light to just like keep you sane in some sense. And
I think I just
like,
need
know what? I need something
think
different.
I just needed something to get me away from Zeppelin.
But
there's a ton of influences. I mean, specifically the Philadelphia Folk Fest, which we've already brought up. We grew up 5 minutes from it. It's a legendary thing. We've seen Arlo Guthrie, Levon Helm, Taj Mahal, and countless other like legendary blues musicians and folk musicians that crafted. We are trying to push the boundaries and be more of a modern sounding band in a sense, but it's what keeps us rooted in the fact that we like know where rock and roll comes from, and we want to continue to at least pay tribute or at least make it obvious that it's like we love all these eras of rock and roll and all these eras of folk music and all sorts of different genres. Like we're not limiting ourselves to being like we're a rock band or an R&B band or something like that.
there's reasons why things were good, and like
Yeah.
we're just trying to keep using those things that were good and keep them relevant.
Yeah, over the past 2 years, our biggest influences, I think, even as an entire band, are more soul music driven, R&B driven, and like new wave kind of like dancey things, which is very different from what people have previously heard from us.
We're all over the place.
You guys play with a lot of energy, which it really does enhance the
whole
music.
band has energy. I think D also plays with the same amount of energy as all four of us in one person.
I don't know.
As far as the rest of the scene in Pennsylvania, is there a strong music scene in Pennsylvania, and what's the genre predominantly where you're from?
So in Philadelphia, there is definitely a great music scene. There's a lot of independent bands that, do well. But I think in Philly, there's so much competition and just so much of everything. So many places to go. The city itself is so big. So in Philly, there's not as much camaraderie as there's in like Central PA. There's like the Central PA jam scene, and it's a lot of like psychedelic kind of rock sounds. We kind of fit into that. We kind of don't.
It is a little more psychedelic jam driven.
And the Northeast in general, I don't think when we've noticed when we went down south and like played in the Midwest that even the bands we're like paired with or anything, like it all just seems to make a little more sense than what we play with at home. But Medusa's Disco is a band. We actually just played their album release party. They're from Harrisburg, and we're kind of the same vein. We're both just like in your face rock and roll bands, and we've created kind of a little scene together. Like every time we get together for shows, it's all the tickets sell well, and
it's a high energy party.
And it's a high energy party. They're as high energy as we can be. So.
And as far as how to learn about music in the local Philadelphia scene, is there? Besides going to shows, are there some stations there that play it?
88.5 XPN, which took us 10 long, hard years to get attention from them, but they finally do love us now. So,
which feels really good.
Feels really good. And then outside of that, not as, like I said, there's so much of everything there that it's almost like the way like a lot of people have like this station.
It's like
here,
oversaturated.
but it's just a little oversaturated. It's hard to like find stuff, avenues that are actually going to get to people, or like if that's the outlet that like people are actually getting music from. So it's a little hard to like find your way in such a big market like that. So that's why we love Appleton. It's a little easier. It's a little bit of a smaller market. We're still trying to crack through in those big areas. We do okay in Philly. We finally like opened for Aqueous in Brooklyn and stuff like that, and have been doing okay. But nothing like here. It's just what Mile of Music has created here is just really impressive. I mean, it's
just like a whole new culture.
It's a Midwest South by Southwest to me, and it's just like we feel part of this music scene more than we really feel a part of any other one. I'll shout out to our Glens Falls friends, Wild Adriatic, Jay Lee from Paradisa and his new project, which I don't remember the name of. Sorry, dude. But we're a little bit part of like the Saratoga Springs, like Lake George, like Adirondack region, like New York music scene that we've like made a lot of friends with up there. So there is like things in that nature, but we haven't really created that same type of scene that we found in other places like in Pennsylvania. There was for a little, but I just don't think it's the same anymore.
Yeah. The times are changing, I guess.
You guys have, toured quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that kind of increases your getting along, or is there some frustrations that tend to boil up during long van rides?
I just think we get more frustrated at home.
Yeah.
And only frustrated that we're not on tour and doing more and getting our brand out there more. I think that's...
We do good when we're active and having more to do. And I don't know, we're able to like fit into this weird routine together where we're just like, all right, everybody get up. All right, everybody take a shower. All right, everybody, we're going to get some breakfast. All right, everybody split up for a little bit, but we have to meet back here.
We
blah, blah, blah.
fight like siblings.
Yeah.
Like, there's the sibling rivalry thing
it's
going
never,
on
it's
between
never
all
malicious.
of us.
Yeah.
But like we truly have Sunday dinners together. We watch Eagles games together. We practice religiously 2 days a week. At least. So, and like forever. Like it's like we'd rather be with each other.
Yeah, we spend holidays together.
Yeah.
Like
go on vacation together still. Like when we get home, it's like, oh, let's all separate. We don't even do that. We all go camping at the same spot.
we're like, all right, I'm gonna go take a shower. I'll see you later.
Is anyone in the band married or have kids yet?
I'm married. I just got married in October. Thank you. None of us have kids yet.
Nope.
A little too career oriented for that at the time, and it'd be hard to settle down and have a family with our hectic, crazy lifestyles. It's just, it wouldn't be fair to the kids.
So, no kids in the future as far as the eye can see.
I mean,
You never know.
I'm probably gonna have kids at some
Yeah,
point.
it's gonna happen.
But,
Does your wife ever want to go along when you guys do these tours?
no, she hates my band.
Yeah. No, but she would hate all of us.
No,
Except for me.
I
Who
think
she
she's-
called this morning.
I think she's coming tomorrow. She called you to ask if I stole her sunglasses.
Yeah.
But I think our family's actually coming to Mile this year. Like I think a lot of our like girlfriends or wife I know my parents are coming too. I'm pretty sure my brother's coming. So Chestnut Grove is totally a family affair.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome, and that's a testament again to what a great job Mile does. That the bands are bringing their bands.
Kids also love us.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. What, like little kids?
Yeah, little kids love us.
My favorite thing that's ever happened is like the fact that parents come up to me all the time that like love our band and they're like, my kid's favorite song is Whiskey Hand. I'm like, that's stupid, but all right. I mean, that song's about drinking and fighting, right?
And they're like, yeah, but the beat slaps.
So there's just 5 to 8-year-olds everywhere, just like singing
down.
Whiskey Hand, like getting down. I'm like, yep, future alcoholics.
This is the time you made it to the point in the show for band reaction, where we play a clip of a previous guest and then we get your reaction.
Oh boy.
This band is called the Roving Scallywags, a Irish punkish type band.
Chris Dietz and Justin would love
Hell
this.
yeah.
Here we go. We'll play it and then we'll get your reaction. Band reaction. Band reaction.
And we kind of put our foot down where we said, we'll cover a 3-hour block. This whole cover band, we're going to, we want you to play, 3 sets a 4-hour night. It just gets old and redundant really fast. So basically we'll play like at an hour hour 15, hour
Hour
20-minute
20.
set, take a short break, and then come back and do a second set, and then we're done.
I think
that's
to do it. I don't know why most bands don't. It's
Yep.
so nice.
Or play with other bands.
Yeah.
Have an open, that was what was nice about playing at the Lyric Room when we came back was, playing with Smoke Free Home and Wasted Pretty and ourselves is, okay, we only have to worry about playing for an hour and a half. The other bands take up that. I love nothing more than a multi-band bill. You get to hang out. You get to, you just kind of wait for your turn, or you're the first one up. You get to play, and then you get off the stage, and you're just like, okay, I can hang out and enjoy the rest of the night and the rest of the show.
And your reaction?
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah,
that's
100%.
that's like the truest thing that's ever been said.
I absolutely love the thing in the beginning where they're like, three sets, 40-minute sets in
so
a 3 to 4
ridiculous.
hour span. It's a dumb way to play too. Like playing a.
Nobody wants to watch that.
We have to do something weird this summer. We're playing Rock the Dock Festival in Lake George, New York, and I'm really excited for it. Like, no knock on the thank you so much. If anyone from this is listening to this, we're really psyched to play the fest. It's actually going to be great. We get to play right before Galactic, which is a famous band that I never heard of. And it should go well for us, but what we have to do is there's a main stage at the festival, and all the main stage acts that are there that day, all the other acts are playing on that stage that day, and then for 30 minutes in between every main stage set, we have to play a 30-minute set, and 4 of them. And I'm like, what the heck? Which is only 2 hours. It's not that crazy, but how do you split that up? Like, how do you have a start and how do you? It's gonna be a nightmare for me.
It's gonna be like a 4 to 5
and that makes me
song
think of that. Like, that's
smush.
like when you have to do it like that. It's like, I get it for bar bands. I get the formula. I understand what it is for you play your top 40 cover songs. You do a bad version of Hot for Teacher, and then, everybody gets up and takes a break, and y'all hang out and have some drinks. It's good for the bar. But when you're I don't know. I don't want to say this even in the wrong way, but when you're trying to be more like a real band, or you're just trying to establish yourself
And have
as
a
an
live
artist
show
and have a live
and-
show, it's the worst way to set up a set list.
Yeah.
It's just you're like, well, what songs do you do? How do you end? What's the finisher? Are you starting and closing each set, or you treat the first set as your opener, the middle as your lull, and then do you do your closer stuff in the final set? It gets confusing. So, spot on, guys. What was the name of that band?
The Roving Scallywags.
Roving
They're
Scallywags.
from the Five
Nailed
Cities. We had a comment from, let's see here. We had a comment from Mark from Appleton Beer Factory. He said, nice
What's up,
shirt.
Mark? Oh, thank you. I got this last night at Appleton Beer Factory. Austin Sterling, great show, by the way. And, even better shirt.
Mark, thanks.
It's a win for everyone.
I want to thank Mark for tuning in. I also want to thank Mark for all the excellent music he's booking at Appleton Beer Factory. That place has really shout out to be one of the places to see music. And we'll quickly plug. I know this episode is going to be played weeks from now, but I'll edit this a little bit out. You can catch Chestnut Grove tonight at Appleton Beer Factory, and you're playing with Age of Fable.
Age of Fable. They were booked last minute. Excited to see them. Don't know those guys, but like the last thing said during band reactions, multi-band bills are awesome because you get to hang out with other people and chill out for a little bit while another band plays. So
You get to sample different things and
sure.
not eat the same thing for the whole set. Well, that's great. And tickets are available, I believe, for that yet. You can get them at the door, I believe. I know they're available in advance, too.
yeah, it's not sold out yet. I know we've already sold a lot of tickets for it. I think about 100 pre-sale is what they were saying. But if you're listening now and you're thinking about going, get your tickets or just come on out and come right in the door tonight, and we'll see you there.
Yeah, it's gonna be a party.
Either, I don't remember who mentioned it. Might have been Dee, might have been James. I'm not sure. One of you mentioned that the new album that we haven't heard yet is kind of moving into a dance direction. And by dance, do you mean programmed drums or just sort of
No. It has all the drums are real on it. We actually had a percussionist come in, so it might sound like there's a lot of fake stuff on it, but it's my drum tracks, and then Jeff Mann from Consider the Source did all the percussion on it so far, and that's all we have done. We'll probably be done recording it in the next month and a half, and then we'll real quick get it on a CD and try and get it out. We're trying to get it out before Mile. We don't know if it's going to happen. It might be a little after.
Fingers crossed.
But digitally, there will be a single or two out by Mile, so...
Have you been playing those songs out?
We are going to play 3 of those songs tonight.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think the EP is going to be called Can't Stand the Music. I said that now live, so it's probably going to stick. But
Can't go back.
This time we haven't changed our mind as much. We had like some serious direction. It's only a 5-song EP. We'll probably follow it up with a record that sounds like similar to what we're doing right now, with probably some different songs on it. But we kind of knew what we wanted this time. Like we had like an idea, we had like an image idea behind all of it, and like it kind of tied in with what we wanted the songs to sound like, and there was like a whole thing we were going for, which usually we would just like, no, we wrote a bunch of songs. Everything was the White Album for us. We were like, yeah, here's just a hodgepodge of tunes that we wrote that don't make sense together on a record.
But we like them.
And you guys have put out such a mix of, I mean, you've released singles, EPs, LPs. Do you think EPs are going to be the way you're going to continue to release?
I prefer making albums as much as they don't sell and people don't want them, and you're probably better off just releasing singles and keeping people interested consistently. I love the process of making an album. I think it's a dying art. I don't think people value it in the same way that they used to. Yeah. But I collect vinyl. I'm like super into it. I love the idea of getting like a big picture book basically that you can open up, and like you get all these sleeves and old school vinyls and stuff like that. Like I just think like that adds to like the process and the art of it. And everybody's always saying like, come up with these content things to sell and do things. I'm like, all right, we could sell a full LP with a bunch of packaged stuff in it for extra money, and like people can buy something really cool.
I feel like seeing the imagery that the band chooses to represent the sound that they're selling is also like a really interesting part of it that's not around really much anymore.
And just back to like the sound of I think I'm more interested in like with this EP, since it's 5 songs like with a direction on it. Like we made albums before, but they're just a collection of songs on a record. I really want to like try to make an out, like, you know, not obviously not this good, like Dark Side of the Moon's like the greatest record of all time, but just like the art of album making is like one of the coolest things in the world, and I don't think people focus on it as much anymore.
Yeah, like have it be conceptual and tell us.
The singles are important and everything, but I just think those deep track cuts that like there's not as much of anymore. And sometimes like they're not as impressive on a record. Like sometimes it feels like a record's like an attempt of 8 singles, and you're like, maybe one of them will get through. And I just think like the idea of being like, okay, well, we made these, we know these are kind of the more pop songs, and the rest of it is just art I made. Like here's art on a record that we made that we wanted to put out. So I'm definitely more of an album person.
That's good to know. And I mean, as far as streaming goes, what's your take on streaming?
I mean, I think that the internet is like the Wild West. Like I'll say this as nicely as possible. I just think it's very unregulated, for better or for worse, and it's such a new frontier of how to do things. And I think it's really awesome that independent people can rise to the top by themselves doing those things. I think the downside to it is, if you're like me and you're into music because of music and you don't give a hoot about computer graphics or followers on your Facebook page
or silly content
on TikTok, like I'm not demeaning it. I think there's definitely a place in the world for it. It's obviously happening, so to completely ignore it would be irresponsible of us. So we understand like where the industry's going. I at the same time think that it again diminishes the opportunity that it has for some of the better artists or better bands out there, and maybe I just feel this way because I'm jealous, which I understand that. But I think if you're not like a marketing major or like a computer science thing, and you don't have something like that in your camp or in your band, it's going to be twice as hard for your art to get out there. Where somebody who, and I'm not trying to like diss anybody personally or anything like that. Like some of these artists that have that are also great artists that just have these platforms and opportunities to do so. But I don't think that the labels or the industries are really doing their due diligence anymore because of it. I think they just wait until a marketing major and an art student come out with one single together, know how to market it to the top right away, and they just sign those people. They're not actually sending out A&R reps to go find diamonds in the rough and these gems that are like Nirvana
musicians invested.
Nirvana would never make it today. That's just my opinion. Like they'd have no chance. Those guys would just be hanging out in a dirty basement, doing too much drugs, and not paying any attention to the social media things that are going on. Like that personality has a harder time making it now, and I just don't think that's necessarily fair.
Yeah.
Which life's not fair, so I'm just sitting here complaining. But
I mean, the social media, it does end up becoming, gets in the way. I think it takes just as much time as like practicing does if you want to.
If not more, if not
Yeah.
like we have to take time after
ridiculous.
making like a bunch of music and just an EP. We'd rather just get right back in the studio, make an album, just spend time touring, and focus on that part of our business. But we have to think about making our own merch because it's too expensive to hire out. We have to think about how we display ourselves on social media, and that takes so much time. Like I have to basically there's so many things for everybody to do in this band. Dee and Zach at this point just run our social media, and we have to constantly remind each other that that's like as important as writing any of these songs, if not more. Which is like why it's strange. Like it's like okay, make one song, spend 6 years marketing the hell out of it, and then maybe you'll have a better chance. It's just like it sets up for like a weird idea to music making. I think
It's not the time that I want to invest. Like that's not the thing I want to invest my time in.
I'd rather just come out with an album every year and just like tour it and then do it again. But instead, it's harder to do that because you're focused on how do we market these shows that are coming up, and then that takes time away from what you really want to be doing. And you know, we do have help. We have a booking agent. We work with a publicist. If there's any managers out there, we'd like one.
We've Mark said that the tickets are flying today, so that's good to hear.
It's awesome. Thank you, Appleton.
Sarah Weiss, thanks for tuning in, and Jason Banks says pretty chill stuff. Thanks for tuning in. You guys have done some videos for the last album. Some really good videos. Do you guys have somebody that does it for you, or are you making them?
Eric Campbell and
Matt McConnelly.
Matt McConnelly, thank you. And Katie Harkins was out here with them last year to do the newspaper hats video.
We're going to play that one.
We filmed that mostly in Appleton,
Yeah.
a little bit of Chicago because Eric stopped into his hometown to get other B-roll footage there on his way home. We met those guys through a friend of mine, Phil Lean. They worked together at REI. They worked together, I think
I feel
so.
like that's it. Yeah.
And Eric, Matt, and their team of people are aspiring filmmakers that work probably twice as hard as our band even does.
Oh, for sure. They were on it the
I've
whole
never
time
been
at
so
Mile.
impressed by somebody I've only known for 6 months and the
Yeah.
amount of work they were willing to put in for the little amount of money we gave them. And they really impressed me, and we're working on all our album artwork and our media content for this next EP directly with them. Like we're not even coming out with this EP without like their input on things. So
Let's talk about different places you've played. Have you had just a city that you went to, it just turned out to be a nightmare?
Oh God.
I mean, you've got to have stories like that.
Wiley Ford, West Virginia.
God. Yeah, I think
we
that's
get
what it was.
this was back before we had a booking agent, and I was booking all the gigs. Some of them were great. I booked a lot of great shows.
Yeah,
some
there were
of,
like really a lot of diamond in the rough.
some of them were
but-
really scary.
Yeah.
The worst one ever was in Wiley Ford, West Virginia. I don't remember the name of the place at all. They didn't really have.
I don't think it had a name. It wasn't even supposed to legally be open.
So when we got there, the bands were setting up, but the owner came up to me and goes, "We didn't get our liquor license approved yet, so it's BYOB now." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I think this is a family kind of radio show. I'm not gonna curse or anything.
Oh yeah, I mean you can, as long as you don't curse. Then
I'm not
it's
gonna
okay.
curse. Yeah. We think that the people who owned and / ran the place, they made us some sloppy joes that I was afraid to eat. They kept going into
They had a trailer.
a trailer
out
that they
front
kept
of the
going into,
property.
and Breaking Bad vibes. You
Yeah.
know, I just was like, I think
Yeah.
they're doing.
They were doing a little more than smoking the devil's lettuce.
Yes,
put it
yes,
that way.
and we were like, so I think I still got $50 from those people
Yeah.
and got the heck out of there.
Oh, we left so fast. That was also the venue that this guy was sitting in a chair and this girl was just like dancing in front of him. And she was trying to get him up to dance. And he clearly was either really inebriated
No,
and
he
didn't
didn't
want to dance.
He was.
He just didn't want to dance. So he didn't move. And she pulled him out of the chair and he just face planted and
there was,
took
like-
it like a champ.
And there was like no one at that show,
Yeah.
and we had to drive down before we even got to it, we already knew it was going to be bad because we went down a dirt road
that led
in
to
West
nowhere.
Virginia that led to three abandoned houses. There was a truck there, so someone may have lived there. We immediately thought we were going to get shot, and we had to turn around like in grass that we may have gotten stuck in, which we didn't. We made it through. John had to drive through a giant,
Floored it through a giant puddle.
and then we had to back up between it because we couldn't get through that road because it was destroyed.
Yeah, he like he like floored it through the puddle and then like got up to a hill and we were like, oh, we're about to crest the hill and be at the venue. Nope, nothing. There was trees. You can't get past it.
And one time we played at a really cool festival that has a similar story. It was in Austin, PA, at the Austin
the
Dam. And the fest is actually really awesome. We've played it a few times. We've had a ton of fun at it. But the very first time we got there, we took a wrong turn, and our GPS led us down a logging trail. So, and the logging trail kept getting thinner and thinner, and you're like on the edge. So it felt like, like what's that, Dangerous Roads or Ice Road Truckers or any of those things? It felt like we were on.
100%.
It felt like we were the Ice Road Trucker.
Yeah, it's like a giant cliff, and you're like, don't open the door or breathe.
I remember getting out and just like stomping. I didn't even drive anymore. I got out of the van. I was just upset. Romped
He's
around.
like, I don't know how we're getting here, and they're like, you definitely took the wrong way.
We could like see the fest too, so we thought we were like going the right way. It was really weird. It was a little scary. John made it though. John's a pro driver.
See, I think those stories are great. Like
we have too many of those.
We have a lot of great stories though, like Appleton, Erie, PA, playing the Summit with Wild Adriatic, like all sorts of things like that. Early days at the Whiskey Jar in West Virginia.
I was just about to say, when we were in the Carolinas, oh my God, the best breakfast food I've ever had in my life.
The tour wasn't so good. That was the last tour I booked before we had a booking agent, and we did a southern run. We were in like South Carolina, North Carolina, a little bit of Virginia, and we blew the whole budget on biscuits and gravy.
Yeah, it was so worth it.
when you're doing those runs, are you staying in hotels or are you finding like people you know to stay with?
A little bit of both. If we've never been there, we got to stay in hotels. It's awesome how fast you do find people though. Like we just played in Grand Rapids, and I think her name's Ellie. She took pictures for us there, and she knows Ian and knows about Mile of Music and everything. So right away, she's like, if you're ever rolling through Grand Rapids again, like you can crash at my place. So it's just like super awesome how like that world music community, just like as soon as you roll in and your band doesn't stink completely, you kind of do get some good perks right
I feel
away.
like they understand like your situation, and they're like, it's not easy doing what you do, so like we're gonna help out as much as
You just
we
drove
can.
900 miles, played for 18 people.
Casey Williams, thanks for tuning in. And Bernadette Schiller says, hi, James and Dee.
What's up, Casey?
Casey's one of our best friends from back home.
We had
I like bouldering.
Bob Minter says, were the O-Nighters still playing Erie? One-Nighters? Sorry, Bob. I'm not quite sure how to say that. So I took the number off because nobody was calling in. So
You guys.
I was hoping somebody
worries.
had some guts, but
Nah, it's all right.
it's still not too late.
We're intimidating.
Yeah, I guess.
Is there something when you guys are playing live that maybe throws you off your game a little bit? I mean, you mentioned like some drunk people at some shows.
I've had a drunk lady literally in my face, like right here, and we were just.
I can get distracted. I have bad
going.
ADHD. I have to like not look at like the best shows are when like the lights are big enough and I actually can't really see the
can't
crowd
see
very well.
anybody,
It's
yeah.
like better for me because I will notice like weird things happening. I get distracted sometimes by like a couple is fighting off to the left and you
Yeah.
can see that they're like not getting along right now, or you're like that guy's being weird and I get distracted by that. The other thing that I have a pet peeve at shows, if anybody's listening right now, if you have a shaker and you go to a show with a shaker,
I know where
or
you're
you're a
There you
person at a
go.
show with
Yeah.
a tambourine,
Don't.
you're the worst person
Don't.
ever.
Just don't.
Like,
Yeah.
don't do that. Like, I'm playing drums and you don't know how to, and it's messing me up. So,
Brooke Steele says she's at Dee's #1 fan.
Oh, nice.
And let's see,
what's
Bernadette Schiller said that
Brooke.
Funky Fret says hi to two of our favorite people.
awesome.
That's
Yeah.
where James gives
I
drum
give drum
lessons.
lessons. Yeah.
Oh, it's drum lessons.
Yeah, I'm molding 7 young children into terrible drummers.
How inspiring.
When did you start giving drum lessons?
I think it's almost a year now. I don't even really remember. It hasn't been that
probably
long.
close,
I think I started right before my wedding, kind of.
Yeah.
So like it's not a full year, only a handful of months. I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. I enjoy watching all of my students get better every day.
It's been really good for him.
It's been great for me. I'm a much better drummer now because of it. Working on the things I constantly overlooked and having to teach new drummers these things, I kind of feel like a completely different drummer ever since starting to give drum lessons.
So it's kind of affecting your personal style.
I think I'm also taking drum lessons the entire time I'm doing this.
Yeah,
somehow.
basically. No, at this point, I'm like, I don't know what we were doing before, but
Yeah,
I think it's
in-
finally
in,
working.
In the past 6 months, I've like pretty much taught myself how to read sheet music. I knew how to before, but I just never did it. I never really read, so I didn't have like the practice on that. And I have to write out sheet music for my students all the time and stuff like that. So it's really, really helped grow like my understanding of what I'm even doing.
That's pretty cool. And
Yeah, it is.
we were kind of talking about drum lessons and stuff earlier. If do you have any advice for younger people or parents that are thinking about having their kids take lessons for an instrument?
Oh, they should.
They
I
just
feel like
should.
music is important to everyone.
This might be the most cliche advice ever. I think Dave Grohl has a whole documentary I've never watched about it called Play, and it truly, like, I've never even seen it, but I've been told like what it's about and stuff. And I think the best advice you could give somebody that wants to play music or even is just getting into it at all, just literally just play. Like, play along to things poorly. Try your best to find somebody else your age or around you if you have siblings that are also playing, immediately set up and write bad songs together. Like, learn how to play easy covers and do it badly. Like, even if you can only play the intro of a song 1,000 times, I highly suggest doing it. I'm in a band today and making no money doing it.
But man, we're having a good time.
Man, we're having a good time. And, I'm in a band today, and a lot of people probably think we're okay at it. And it's literally just a product of starting with John, who is still in a band with me, and playing Holiday, but only the first minute clip because I didn't know how to play the rest of it. So, and just like the intro to Iron Man, to Death. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, if you're out there doing that, like, just keep on doing that. And, like, just believe that you can do it. And you kind of can just manifest your own life of music if you kind of just really believe that that's what you want to do.
What's next for Chestnut Grove after the next
Grammys,
EP comes out?
Undeniably so.
No,
we're at Ardmore Music Hall actually next Saturday,
yeah,
June 4th.
Yeah,
opening for Sister Hazel.
Yeah, and we have a lot of big stuff going on this summer. We're playing at Exponential Music Fest in Philly, which is the best lineup and bill we've ever been a part of other than a Mile event. And we hope that this EP continues to push our success like in the Philly area, get us a little more radio attention. And the biggest plan is to just have our 2023, we hope to have. In 2020, we had the biggest tour we had ever booked, and we had to cancel it. And then in 2021, we had to cancel it again. And in 2022, we were able to get back out there and kind of book the tour we were hoping to do. And a lot of the shows we wanted, we did get, but it's been hard to solidify all the dates and get everything together in such like short time when everybody was like, oh, it's really open now. Like, let's actually book things. Being a smaller band, you're kind of like on hold 7s while Beck gets all the hold 1s.
Yeah, you're still getting table scraps.
So, it's been a tough comeback year, but like we're keeping our heads up and hanging strong for it. And we're going to try to book the biggest tour we've ever done in 2023 and hopefully follow that up with an album that kind of comes along with the EP that we're coming out with.
How long does Chestnut Grove go before you hang up your hats? 70s, 80s?
Yeah, I think that's the plan.
I don't think there's ever going to be an end.
Even if we never tour as big as the Rolling Stones, I'm going to try and tour longer.
I like it.
I like that too.
Aaron Steele, thanks for tuning in. She can't wait for the Ardmore show.
Oh, cool. We can't wait either. We're so excited.
Thank you for
that
for
Steele
hopping on
family
today.
really popping in today. Thanks, Brooke. Thanks, Aaron. You guys are the best.
Thanks for doing this again. It's I know you guys had limited amount of time here in Appleton, but it's great
good.
to.
We're
The
happy
more
to be
we
here.
get to do, the better.
I would have came in yesterday, but I didn't know until I finished my frisbee golf round and was like, oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Me and Zach were busy trying on assless chaps. So. To each their own, I guess.
What's the best way for people to find Chestnut Grove if they have not heard of the band yet and want to find out more?
Spotify, chestnutgrove.band, or did you guys change that yet? We are going to have a new website soon. I think the URL's the same.
It's still chestnutgrove.band, yep. We're going to have new merch up soon, so be on the lookout for that. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram.
And we've run all of them ourselves, so if you ever want to just say hi to us or whatever, just reach out to Chestnut Grove on any of the platforms you can find us, and we'll be happy to get in touch with you.
We're full of endless silliness.
Mark, thanks again for booking awesome bands in the Fox Cities.
Yes, thanks,
Ian
Mark.
and Jess, thank you, and thank you everybody. Bob Inter, thank you for this. Chestnut Grove, thank you, James D, for joining us on
Andy.
Fox Cities
Thanks, Andy.
Core
Happy
on
to be here.
Yeah,
Code
thanks for having
Zero
us.
Radio. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
Rock the house.